So you know there's that old saying, they died with their boots on, or died with their shoes on. I don't remember exactly what type of footwear was mentioned, but it's like a term, they died with their boots on. I think that's how it is. But maybe when one is committing a crime, the opposite to that concept is true. Just guessing. Anyway, hi everybody, it's Steve. It is May 9th, 2021. How y'all doing? It's a new day, a bright new day. The birds are literally flying over me. And it's a new day, so of course a new day means a new story. But before we get to that, remember as always to like, share, subscribe, hit up my Patreon if you want to help me out that way. I'm always posting new stuff there for you. So you're helping me, and I'm helping you right back by giving you content for your contribution. The link to my Patreon is in the description below, along with the links to my Instagram and Facebook pages closely related to the content I'm producing both here, as well as my primary channel, Steve the Amateur Story. You can watch these videos on either channel. And I'm already feeling like my cap is about to fly away. So yeah, that's how you can help me blossom. Let's get to today's story. We're going back 100 years. So the Hart family lived in a home on what would today be called Southwest Upper Place, which I had to look that up. I'd never heard of that street before. But based on the description of the family, it seemed clear they had a pretty nice house. They had a live-in maid, which means they had to have some kind of money. So my first thought was maybe they lived kind of in the West Hills to some degree. And they did. They lived on the fringe of the West Hills. Upper Place is located just south, a little southwest of downtown Portland. One of those winding streets as you get up into the West Hills. Lots of nice houses. Houses I likely will never even dream of having enough money to afford. Very bougie. So that kind of made sense that their home would be located in such a spot. Now, of course, when you have a really nice house, sometimes you can attract burglars of various sorts. Nowadays, a lot of really nice homes, I mean, it all depends on your neighborhood, but a lot of nice homes are in gated communities now. A lot of nice homes are in areas where there's security. There's a lot more restrictions on, really expensive property and expensive homes that make it much harder for criminals to break into homes or even just steal something out of your backyard. Again, not all of them, but it's harder now than it was back then. Back then, you just had a nice home, but there wasn't really anybody protecting it except you and your family. So, in the middle of the night, on this date, a date identical to this one, the Hart family, everybody, including the maid, because they had maids' quarters in their house, they'd all gone to bed, and it was the middle of the night. Prime burglaring hours. Is burglaring? I don't think burglaring. Is burglaring a word? I feel like it could be. The act of burgle. Don't listen to me. I'm nuts. So, a couple members of the family are stirred to life by the sounds of some kind of commotion downstairs, and the immediate thought is somebody has broken into their house. There was like a husband, a wife, a couple of kids, and a maid. I mean, I would at least think there'd be a partial consideration that maybe somebody else in the family went downstairs. But the immediate presumption was that someone had broken into their house. They have a nice home. Maybe they've been burgled before. I know burgled is a word. And so maybe they just, maybe it happened a couple times in the past. Maybe it happened to neighbors. It was kind of a known thing back then that, prowlers, transients, people living on the streets, a lot of them would gravitate towards these areas south of downtown where a lot of these nice homes were. You'd see these people kind of all over the place. So maybe they just knew this was going on and immediately led them to think maybe we're being burgled right now. But whoever this prowler was, he was brazen. He had to know in the middle of the night the family's gonna be home, most likely. But he made his way up to the second floor where, you know, all of the you know, most of the bedrooms in the home would presumably be. And this is when everyone in the family started coming out of their rooms, and the prowler had to know the jig was up, and he literally ran to a door that led out onto a second-story balcony and just threw himself off the balcony, and it appears vanished into the night. Since they didn't find anybody in the aftermath, I can only assume the perpetrator was either uninjured by his leap or, you know, not injured enough to like keep him there. He didn't shatter a leg or anything. And, you know, one of the things about these homes is they were off in the hills. It's 1921. There's not a lot of street lights up there in various parts now. There really weren't a lot. In fact, I don't know if there were really any. So at nighttime, it would have been very dark in this area, and it would have been very easy for this guy to vanish into the night in just about any direction, because a lot of these roads were winding back down into town. There weren't as many houses. You could almost just stumble down the hill and just kind of blend in with people in the city, and it would be that easy to pull something off like that and then just completely disappear, and no one would have any idea who you were, where you were going. Like, just thinking about that, I would be almost led to believe that this guy probably got away with it. Probably. Now, this guy did make one little, I don't know if you'd necessarily call it a mistake. Maybe you can call it a mistake. It depends on whether it could really be tied to him for certain or not. So when authorities arrived, they noted a disturbance of a window in the pantry of the home down on the first floor. So it was immediately presumed that that was the method that the burglar used to gain entry. The article doesn't mention what this guy got away with, if anything. He was prowling around on the first floor for a little bit, and then it seems like not long after he got to the second floor, he had to make a run for it, so maybe he didn't really get away with much. So maybe he got away with it, but it also may have been a wasted trip, a pretty significant risk with no real gain. Maybe he got away with a few nice pieces, though, I don't know. But it appears the man did not, he didn't die, as far as I know, but he didn't die with his boots on. Instead, he just left his boots in the house. The only clue to whoever had broken into the Hart home was whoever did it left their boots in the pantry. Well, and here's what I think. It's probably, considering the fact that the boots were left in the vicinity of where the guy, literally in the same room that the guy broke into the house at, I think it was the classic, you walk around in shoes, you make noise. Especially, they said they were combat boots, so these were probably some pretty meaty shoes, probably made some clicking as you walk. And it's a commonly, used tactic when you're trying to sneak around. Take your shoes off and walk around barefoot, because you pretty much make no sound when you do that. And I think that's what this guy was doing. Was he got into the home, slipped his boots off, and then thought he was moving around quietly, but obviously members of the family heard him, so he wasn't that stealthy. And he tried to quietly prowl around the home in that way. And then, when the family was alerted to his presence and he realized, I gotta go, he wasn't gonna backtrack, possibly run into a family member who would literally see him face to face, possibly identify him. He was like, well, I gotta bail. Ran out to a balcony and leaped, second story drop to the ground, and vanished into the night, and left his boots behind in the pantry for all to see. So maybe that was enough to be used to identify this guy? I don't know. It's questionable, I would think. And that is the video for today. There were boots involved, but nobody died in them. So hope you enjoyed. that story. And if you do enjoy this stuff, you enjoy this content I'm producing, think about doing things like liking my videos, subscribe to my channel if you really love this stuff. You can hit my Patreon if you want to help me out that way. I'm always posting new stuff there for you in exchange for your help for me. The link to that is in the description of this video, as well as the links to my Instagram and Facebook pages, both closely related to the content I'm producing, both on my This Day in History channel as well as my Steve the Amateur Historian channel. These vlogs are being posted on both channels, so watch them on whichever channel you want to. Watch them on both. Just gives me double views. But yeah, once again, truly from the heart, thanks again for watching and supporting this channel. And till next time, this has been Steve, and I'll see you tomorrow.